So JF Dufo, May 20th, 1977. I just want to set the record straight to explain what happened between the years of 1995 and 1996. There was a lot of pressure on my back at that point. I still hadn't found a career that I wanted to go in. I had to make a life decision at that point in deciding what I was going to do with the rest of my life. That in itself was a big enough decision. Not only did I have that to deal with, I had to deal with the upcoming pressure that I was going to go through at the end of the school year for prom. I had to find myself a date. I had to figure out as well for the rest of my life how I was going to hide this secret. Because I had come to the realization that I was gay, even though I wasn't admitting it to myself. I had to find myself a career that I was going to hide myself in, to use that career as an excuse as to why I do not have a girlfriend or a wife. This is what my problem was when I started 13th grade, the very final year of my high school. I used to smoke, but I started when I worked at this job that I had at the bakery. I started working there midway through high school, and I met some new people. It was nice because those people didn't know me, and they quickly liked me, as opposed to how it was in high school. And at a certain point, this girl was smoking, and she said, "I never seen you smoke." I'm like, "Well, I don't smoke." And she says, "Well, I want to see you smoke." And I'm like, "Okay." And so I took a cigarette out of her pack, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're so cool, you smoke. You know how to smoke." And I'm like, "Yeah." And then something clicked inside of me, and I'm like, "Oh shit, she finds me cool." And I had never felt like that before, especially from somebody who was a little bit older than me and seemed altogether cool. And right after my shift, I bought myself a pack of smokes because I was using that as a tool to hide myself in even more. That's how far I went to hide myself, to have people not know that I was gay. It was just another layer that I was putting on my back to hide myself in that. It was just something that I could hold on to and mask myself with because it was so unlike me to smoke. So I was trying to get away from who I was as much as I could. So that's why I started smoking. And I kept going for a good 10 years. If somebody knew me as a smoker, they would associate JF with smoking and not JF as being gay. So the smoking enabled me to hang out with them more. It's like I was a part of some club. And during that summer, in between 12th and 13th grade, I started hanging out with them, and I met some girls, and that helped me a little bit in forgetting what was going on in my head. My close friends were very surprised when they found out that I started smoking, and I liked that. That they were concentrating so much on the smoking and how a lot of them were disappointed that I had started smoking because it was so unlike me. And I thought that that was the perfect ploy to distract them even more. Even though they probably didn't think I was gay, or maybe they had doubts, it completely deterred them from that aspect. And it was a perfect plan. Yeah, I had to do a lot of things in order to hide myself even more. I took up golf. I started following hockey just to man myself up just so I could put on those layers. And I did that for years. And yeah, I mean, It was a constant battle every single day. And people were asking questions, but to me that was like an interrogation. Do they have any idea how I feel? Is there a doubt in their minds that, holy crap, is JFK? I was constantly being pricked by that all the time in my head. And I had to put on, and I keep on repeating myself, but I had to keep on putting those layers on and create that character. That was the most important thing in my life all the time. So people kept asking me, why don't I have a girlfriend yet? Okay, I dated somebody for about 2-3 weeks. And for me, it was kind of an experiment to see if I could add that additional layer on my back. But something wasn't right because I was actually using somebody to hide in. And I did not like that feeling because I was giving that person false hopes that I could potentially be her boyfriend. And fortunately, she broke up with me because she broke up with me because I never kissed her. So that was a given. But after that, I realized that, okay, no, that's going too far. And using somebody to hide in, for me, it wasn't right. So I would rather be single, hence where I had to find that career to hide in, because I can't hurt anybody that way. And in a sense, it's the truth. I'm too busy to get a girlfriend because I'm so busy with my job, and I ended up finding the perfect job. That perfect job needed to have long hours, a lot of devotion, where I'd have to work weekends, where I'd have to work long nights. I was sitting in the library in my high school, and I was looking through brochures of potential internships that could possibly fit me. And I stumbled upon my career counselor said, "Why don't you just go to this television station?" And before he said that, I'd never even realized that something like that was possible. So I went for my job interview, my internship interview, and I got it on the spot. And I was starting to work that night after that interview. And as soon as I started that, it was like a blessing in disguise. I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. And everything went away because I felt so comfortable in that space. And I'm like, I'm good. I'm good to go. I can forget about everything. I am just going to plunge myself into this career and forget about everything. For every concern that I ever had in my life, they were melting away. So I started that internship, and it was something that I liked doing. When I was a kid, I was walking around with a camera all the time, and it's something that I've always wanted to do, and for some reason I was always held back in my previous schools. The clubs were full or whatever, and I couldn't join. But I was finally doing something that I really enjoyed doing. I was making new friends, I was getting comfortable, and I was hanging out with older people. I was hanging out with the producers that worked there. I went to a couple of parties, and I was finally living high school. The parties that I was never invited to, well, I was going to these parties, and they were a lot cooler because they were actually adults, and I could drink and I could smoke, and it was perfect. It was so much fun. But that dreaded day was coming, prom. And I was very, very anxious about that, in finding a girlfriend, and not finding a girlfriend, but finding a girl to go with, and all that stuff. And I didn't know how I was going to do this. Because in my head, it wasn't just about, oh, I'll just ask a girl and we'll go together and it's just going to be friends. That in my head, that didn't compute at all. So I was gonna go solo. But my brother-in-law loaned me his BMW convertible for my prom. So I had that going with tuxedo and felt like James Bond. And I showed up to the TV station to, of course, show the car, show how I was all dressed up in my tux. And one of the girls that worked there, my boss at that time, said, "Why doesn't she go with you to your prom?" And I freaked out. I was like, "No, I can't. No, I don't even have a ticket for her. I don't even have money to pay for drinks for her. And no, I can't do it." And they kept on pushing me and pushing me and pushing me. And in my head, I was like, I can't go out with a girl. As much as I kind of wanted to, because I would have been able to like have a really, really hot girl with me, driving up to that hotel with that BMW and me, I couldn't. I couldn't use a person to hide within. It was just something that I couldn't do. And they still talk to me about it today. How come you didn't go? Even though they know today that I am gay, I explained that to them, saying that I couldn't do that. But anyways, I went to prom. I showed up with the BMW, and all like the jock guys were like, "JF, how are you? No, nice car, man." And everybody completely forgot that I wasn't with anybody, and it was fine, and it went all right. But I was relieved that was over. But there was more pressure coming because now I really had to start my life. So after prom, something was putting pressure on me. It was time to find a wife and have some kids. And I knew those questions were coming up. And how was I going to deal with that? Because back then, you would graduate high school, go to college, and then it's time to find yourself a wife, buy a house as soon as possible, and then start the kids and all that stuff. So I had to deal with that. But this cool new thing was coming up, and I didn't know that at the time, but it was going to be something that was going to help me discover a little bit more about myself. It was going to open the doors in communicating with people that were like me. And it was called the internet. Am I done here? Can I go?